So hopefully you read the one square synthesis. That was a review from what we did last week. So this is going to be an intro to the relationship between the sides and this area of a square. So we have a table here. There's a Google Doc that's connected to this lesson. So if you could please load up that document and you can go along with me. So the table here is giving us the various side lengths and areas of squares, and we're trying to fill in the missing blanks. So we're going to start with the side lengths. So for the first one, well, we already know that the area of a square is side squared, right? So if you look here, it's giving us the side length with this, which is S, is 0 and 5/10. And we don't know the area. We have to square that to get the area. So on your calculator, you would do 0.5 times 0.5, and then you're going to end up with 0.25. So that's what we're going to put as the area. We're going to follow the same procedure. We can't do it here because they don't give us the side length, but they give us the side length here. So the area is side squared. I always write the formula first, and it's telling us that the side is 1.5. So the area is what we're trying to find. And then the side is 1.5. We have to square that. When you use your calculator and square that, you're going to get the area equals 2.25. And what you're going to notice is that there's a pattern. It looks like every time they give us the side length, in order to find the area, you have to square it. So we're going to keep doing that for all of the problems. You can do a couple on your own, and I'll do a couple more, and then I'll just fill in the blanks. So for this one, the area equals, in this case, the side is 2.5. So if I square 2.5, I look on my calculator, I get 6 25/100. So that's the area when the side is 2.5. And so we're going to follow that same pattern for each one. So I'm noticing anytime I want to find the area and they give us the side, all I have to do is square the side. So I've already done this. You guys can practice this. You can pause the video and do it yourself. I'm just going to fill in the blanks. So for this one, I did 3.5 times 3.5. That's how I got 12 25/100. For 4.5, when I did that on the calculator, I got 20 25/100. When I had 5.5 and I squared it, I got 30 25/100. When I did 6.5 times 6.5, I got 42 25/100. And then when I did 7.5 times 7.5, I got 56 25/100. So we can just make a conclusion that anytime you're given the side of a square, find the area, all you have to do is square the side. Now, what happens in the reverse? If you notice here, they're giving us all of the areas of the square. So how are we going to find the side? So if you look at the formula, it basically tells you what to do. So in this case, let's start with this one. It's saying that the area is 1. So where the A is, I'm going to put a 1. And we don't know what the side is. So it's side squared. And you guys remember, to solve an equation, you do the inverse operation. So to get rid of a square, you have to find the square root. The square root of S squared is just S. And then whatever we do on one side, we have to do on the other side. And of course, the square root of 1 is 1, because 1 times 1 is 1. Let's try another one. If we look here, we're going to put our formula, area equals side squared. In this case, it's telling us that the area is 4. That's side squared, but we want just the side. So you find the square root. And we get 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. So I know the side for this square is 2. You see? And we'll do one more. So for this one, you have area equals side squared. This time they're giving us that the area is 9. So I'm going to plug in a 9 where the A is. And now I have to get S by itself, so I find the square root. So 3 equals S. So you're going to notice a pattern here besides the fact that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. What I wanted you guys to see is that when you're trying to find the side length, you have to find the square root of the area. That'll give you the side length. So for example, the square root of 16 is 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. The square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 49 is 7. And the square root of 64 is 8. Now, these are what we call perfect squares. Like you can square any number and get a perfect square. So like, for example, if I said 12 and I squared it, I get 144. So this 144 is called a perfect square, right? But not every number is a perfect square. So let's look at this a little bit further. So if I wanted to find what the side was for this square, if the area is 144, find the square root, I know the side is 12. But what happens if they give you something, and that's an exact root because this is a perfect square. That's the only number you can multiply to get the other number. But what if you have something like the square root of 87? So if you think to yourself, there is no whole number you can multiply by itself to get 87. And I can even show you on the calculator if you tried that. If you went to the square root of 87, it's going to give you a decimal number. And a decimal number is not exact. So in this lesson, they want the exact number. So the exact number, you would just leave as the square root of 87. So for example, if they gave you a problem and it said that the area was 56, right? And they want you to find the side, you would still do area equals side squared. This area is 56, that equals side squared. Now, we know we have to find the square root, but if you look on your calculator, here, the square root of 56 is not a whole number. So when it's not a whole number, they don't want you to take this number. They want the exact answer. So the exact answer is just the square root of 56. That's the exact, sorry, it's just S. That is the exact answer. Okay, so anytime you have a number that is not a perfect square, like 87, 56, another one is 22. There's no whole number you can multiply by itself to get that. Just leave the answer as the square root of that number. That's the exact answer, because that's the answer when you're not rounding it. Okay, so just to recap really quickly, to find the area of a square, you square the side. So that's what we did here. We squared these sides to find the area. So for this one, I had to do side squared in order to get the area. Now, if I look at the bottom row, to find the side of a square, you have to find the square root of the area. So in order to get these numbers on the top, I had to find the square root of the numbers on the bottom. So now you're going to go to the guided practice where you're going to practice this some more.